Good evening. Welcome to the McNeil-Lehrer News Hour. I'm Jeff Deck. I'm here tonight to do another reading from the Pseudo-Chronicles of Mark Huntley, a book that I wrote. Me, Jeff Deck. I wrote this. I've been reading from it for a couple weeks now, doing a regular reading, and we are going to pick up in the middle of an entry that we started reading last night. It's a long entry, so that's the reason why we broke it up. The first part of the entry that we read yesterday was called Last Call for Dinner, and this part is called First in Flight. And as a reminder, this falls in the story in Sunday, October 10th, 2004. Right now, Rents is asking me why I feel this perverse urge to update strangers in Cyberland about everything that happens in my life. But I'm shooing him away. Go watch TV for a few minutes or something. I don't want him to see this URL. As I've said, I think keeping a record of these things might be useful for someone someday, not necessarily me. It'll depend on whether I can decode all of this, figure out which parts I can believe, which parts I can throw out. I almost think some little piece of me, deep in my tinkered brain, knew that this was all coming, and that was why I started this journal in the first place. Could be wrong, could be an insane thought, but... Saturday morning, we woke up at a decent time to prepare for some sightseeing. As we ate our cereal and drank our juice, Rents asked if I'd gotten up at some point during the night. He thought he'd heard something. It would have been the perfect time to open the discussion about the purples, about the silvers, about everything. I didn't have any of the excuses I'd given myself the previous night. I was wide awake, I was clear-headed, and I had the whole day ahead of me to unfurl the story to Rents. We could talk about it on the metro. We could continue the discussion as we roamed around museums and other fine cultural institutions. But Huntley the unready, waffling prince struck again. I swallowed and said that I'd had to take a piss at 2 a.m. Sorry if I kicked the futon by accident. What can I say to excuse myself? Only that I'd heard that call of normal once again and I couldn't resist it. I just wanted to be a guy showing his friend around a great city, just for a little while. I would start to tell him in the afternoon. I would definitely do it then. And so our jam-packed itinerary began. Plan for the day: art, history, culture, big hanging things on display. Intermission: tell Rents about my recently re-emerged power to spot monsters and/or cultists surrounded by glowing auras, engaged in some sort of sinister conspiracy. Plan for the night: completely stupid, drunken antics. First we climbed up in the old post office to see the great view of D.C. from the bell tower. Then we walked down past the mall to the World War II memorial. Then, after the long trek back from there, on to various other monuments, and, I'm really not going to bore you with a whole laundry list. Take a visit sometime. Most of this stuff is free. We'll just skip to the late afternoon when Rents said that he wanted to swing through the Air and Space Museum. And your waffling prince had still not opened his trap about anything otherworldly whatsoever. Had I seen purples or silvers in the crowd that day? No, a fair amount. But I kept us at a healthy distance. I don't think any of them wanted to get close to me anyway. Not out in public, so I thought. We were up on the second floor deck, which gives you a nice view of the hanging planes and the upright shuttles and rockets in the front exhibition space. Rents had gone down for a second pass through the walk-through level at the space station. I stayed behind, as once was enough for me. I was content to take another look at the Lockheed F-104A starfighter. It was like a larger version of a kid's toy. Little dinky wings. Some used to call it the lawn dart. The Germans referred to it as the flying coffin. What a truly foolish and brave thing to put yourself in the air in a thing like that, I thought. That was when somebody tapped me on the shoulder. I turned and nearly fell over at the sight of the intimidating figure. A towering man with flowing black hair to a little past his shoulders, and a droopy mustache and bit of beard, and a powder blue button-down shirt, jeans, and cowboy boots, with a big brass buckle on his belt. His size wasn't what intimidated me. The faint violet aura around him did. "Mark Huntley?" he growled. I don't know if my response definitively answered his question. Holy shit! I scrambled backwards, ducking out of the way as he reached for me. So it had come to this. The Purples had grown bold enough to snatch me in the middle of the crowd in one of the most popular museums in Washington. Maybe my symbol drawing last night had told them something I hadn't even realized I was telling. I wasn't about to stick around to ask my abductor. I spun around and saw Rents just emerging from the exit of the space station. "Run!" I hollered at him. "What?" he said. All around us, people turned to stare at the idiot who just shouted in the middle of the museum. Some of them looked scared. Did somebody say Al-Qaeda? Rentz's face folded into an annoyed expression that said, "Is this another stupid joke?" I followed my own advice, pelting in Rentz's direction. Behind me, the man in faint violet called out in a surprisingly soulful voice, "Wait, Mark! Hold on!" Rentz still stood there, staring at me. I shouted, "Run! Now!" This time, God love him, he realized that I was serious. As I passed him, he broke into a sprint to match mine. It was just impossible to run through that crowd without smashing into people, so for the next couple of minutes, we pinballed right through, trying to aim away from little kids and anyone else who might suffer from being knocked over. On our right, a security guard looked up, shouted, "Hey, no running!" I dared to look back at the long-haired man. He hadn't bothered to chase me. He'd taken a few steps forward. Now he was just standing there looking frustrated. Nevertheless, we didn't let up until we reached the stairs. There, we slowed down a little. We didn't want to draw the attention of any more security guards. Hopefully the man with the faint purple aura wouldn't want to either. We walked briskly across the first floor to the exit. Once we'd pounded down the front steps of the museum, we ran a little ways down the sidewalk and then stopped to catch our breath. Rentz hadn't attempted a word to me during our flight from air and space. Now he turned to me, his face full of worry. What happened? You okay?" "Let's get farther away from this place," I panted. We walked across the mall through a sizable knot of people milling around and enjoying the day, while I kept an eye on the way we'd come. After a couple of minutes, the long-haired man came out of the museum, looked that way and that way, but not this. Having lost our trail, he headed off in a different direction. But he'd find us some other time, sometime soon. Or one of the others would. I faked being out of breath a little longer than I actually was. I wanted to buy time to think, but I'd just run out of it. No more anemic excuses, no more noble procrastination. The zone of weird crap had touched us both now. I was going to have to tell Rentz the truth. Or at least the teetering pile of oddities, horrors, dreams, gut feelings, and guesses that would have to pass for the truth. He looked at me expectantly. "I guess you've noticed I've been acting a bit off lately," I began. So I went through the whole story with Rentz. The whole story. If I was going to tell him anything about the auras, the knife, the visit from my forgotten past, all the charming features of the zone of weird crap, I couldn't leave a single thing out. Frankly, it was a relief to get it all off my chest. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity that I've had to share all of this with you, reader. But you haven't exactly been much help to me so far. You even think my name is Mark Huntley. As I talked, Rentz just nodded and asked clarifying questions. He chose to withhold judgment or opinion until I was finished. I don't know how long I went on. It was at least an hour, maybe closer to 2. During that time, we walked out of the parks area and back up to the business district, passing Ford's Theater and then Metro Center. We took a meandering route, not heading directly back to DuPont, but widening up further north and east, almost into northeast itself. Our legs were already worn out from all the walking earlier in the day, but we tromped on like machines wrapped up in the story. I saw Silver along the way coming out of a restaurant. He didn't give me a second look. Midway through all that talking, I started to crave water, so we stopped in at a CVS and I picked up a bottle of Dasani. Rents didn't get anything. He was eager for me to bring us back to the present time. Finally, as we approached my neighborhood, I wrapped things up by explaining why it had us flee from the Air and Space Museum. I described the towering guy and his purple aura, which, as I thought back and mentioned to Rents, had been much weaker than the other auras I'd seen to that point. Rents sat down on a bench with a thoughtful look on his face. I sat down next to him and passed him my water. After a few seconds, I said, "Do you believe me at all?" "First," said Rents, "let me say that I'm a firm believer in proactively diagnosing and treating mental illness. I mean, you've met my family. Early discovery could have gone a long way there." Then, as my face fell, he went on, "But I don't think that you have to worry about the nut house." "Glad to hear it," I said. He patted me on the shoulder. Incredibly, he grinned. "I knew something weird, something truly outrageous had to happen in this world sooner or later. I knew I was going to be a part of it, too. People have been reading their Heinlein, Bradbury, Lovecraft all these years. We'd be the best equipped to recognize that kind of shit and to deal with it. So I believe you, muchacho." "Well, that was easier than I thought." "So you don't think I'm going crazy?" Rents laughed. "Let's be empirical about this. You may be going crazy for all I know, but not because of any of the stuff you just told me about." He leaned back against the bench. "Mark, we can't possibly know all there is to know about the world we live in, much less the universe. What do? We comfort ourselves with supposedly unbreakable laws of science. We absorb all those laws, those observed patterns of what goes on in nature, and we think, that's it, those are the answers. When that's really all just a covering over this scary void. This whole space of the unknown, of everything that we as humans are too damn stupid to see." He paused. "But you've seen something, Mark." They shivered. Somehow Rents had managed to make my experiences seem even creepier than they already were. Well, not because I'm smarter than the rest of humanity. I certainly don't know what the hell I'm seeing." "Hey," Rents said, "we'll figure it out. I like a challenge." "Any theories so far?" "Have you considered vampires?" No. "These auras you describe," said Rents, "they're kind of like something in the tail end of the Dark Tower series. Stephen King. There are all these vampires, right? And they have blue auras around them. And then the really bad ones have like dark purple auras. Sounds similar to what you've seen." And I shook my head. "I really don't think that these people are vampires. It just doesn't fit." "That one's standing out in the street last night with his buddies, and the night you first saw him. Maybe he was just waiting for you to invite him in. You have to do that with vampires." "Nah, it doesn't make sense," I said. "Classic vampire rules don't apply. I see the purples all the time during the day, and the silvers for that matter. If the purples were vampires, what would that make the silvers? A different class of vampire? Like in your books? They've got a caste system going? Hey, Mary." Maybe that made sense. There were a lot fewer silvers than purples. He shrugged. "Just throwing that out there. We're going to need a lot more information. About the knife. About how you got your aura seeing back." He frowned at me. "I'm still not used to seeing you without your glasses, by the way. You say that coincided with the beginning of the auras?" "Yes." So now you've got new... Well, we'll have to come back to that." Rents got up from the bench. "Come on, let's walk. Do you know whatever happened to Miss Samuelson? Like, if she's still around?" "Nope, I couldn't find anything online." "We should try that again, and find out more about this Einer. You said Google didn't yield anything. Might have to do some good old-fashioned fashion research at the library. I hesitated. Before we get into all this, shouldn't we worry first about protecting ourselves from the purple in the museum? Should I get a gun? Whoa, he said. No, you're not getting a gun. Not without some training courses first. Besides, don't you guys have a ban on handguns? Shit, I'd actually forgotten about that district law. It had never even had a remote bearing on my life until now. But yes, of course, DC was famous for banning its residents from gun possession, while still having a horrible gun violence problem. I mean, our basketball team used to be called the Bullets. People still seem to find their way to guns, I said. But I felt queasy saying it, and when Rent said, no, no way, I agreed with him. And it's not like you can go to the police either, Rent said. Excuse me, officer, there's a big scary guy bathed in violet light who's after me. Can you arrest him? Shit. How were we going to defend ourselves? I thought with sudden dejection. Or at least how was I going to defend myself? Even if this purple didn't manage to track me down again, another one would sooner or later. They were communicating with each other. I'd seen evidence of that, with a group of them under the streetlight. Let me ask you something, Rent said as we walked. A small inconsistency. Maybe not. When you were at the wedding, when you shoved that caterer with the purple aura, the knife was triggered immediately. It appeared in your hand, like an emotional reaction as soon as you made contact with him. And back when you stabbed Miss Samuelson, another purple, you were pretty up close and personal with her too. The knife just appeared then. Right. So when the guy in air and space tapped you, touched you, and you spun around, saw his aura, why didn't the knife come out? You were probably just as close to him as you were to the businessman. And this guy fucking put his hand on your shoulder. That was a good question. I don't know, I said, but... Plus you said the air and space guy's aura was different than all the others. Fainter. Had there been something different about this guy? Like, he wasn't really a purple? He was, I insisted. The aura was there. That makes him a purple. That makes him one of them. And his voice? Did he have the echoey voice like the others? Well, no, I said. He hadn't, had he? I missed that detail. What if he was like a half-breed? Half human, half purple? Born of some unholy union? And he wanted to... No, that's ridiculous, I interrupted, as if the rest of it made logical sense. But the notion of a half-breed purple was somehow crossing the line. I sensed it. I saw it. Purple is bad, period. He was one of them. Rents nodded. All right, then we kick his ass if he shows up again. Maybe ask him a few questions, though, before you stick him with your hoodoo knife. We wandered back to my apartment. I'd considered getting us a hotel room for the night for safety, but A, I couldn't afford a hotel around here, not unless we went way out to the burbs. And B, the purples had never tried to break into my place. They'd just been watching it. As long as we barricaded ourselves in, as long as we didn't let them follow us as we left the building, we ought to be okay. I mean, that purple at the Thai restaurant had flinched from me, hadn't he? I did have something they feared. I just would need to learn how to use it. We spent a lot more time discussing mysteries within mysteries, but we were short on conclusions. We got to a point where we could joke around about the complete absurdity of it all, but when the sun went down, laughing about it no longer seemed so appropriate. We ordered some pizza, tried to get back in better spirits. Then, at Rent's insistence, because we can't let them keep us holed up like lab animals, we hit the bar scene. After first making sure we weren't being followed. Rents doesn't drink a ton. I outpaced him again that night, but he wanted to observe the ladies of D.C. in their natural habitat. The evening went well until I got a call on my cell phone as we were drinking in McFadden's. Unknown number, but I still answered it. Hello? I said as I walked toward a quieter corner of the place. Mark, listen, a deep, tuneful voice said. Only 2 words and I knew it to be the voice of the purple from the museum. A human voice, yes, not an echoey voice. Don't hang up. Sorry, I said. I need to... I hung up, clicked the phone off, and pocketed it. Rents looked at me curiously. The purple discovered Ma Bell, I said. Let's be on our guard, he said. Let me know if you see any purples around, okay? I didn't see any, but then the TV above our heads switched from baseball recaps to breaking local news. Police discovered the body of a 37-year-old local woman tonight in the rear courtyard of the National Gallery of Art. Cause of death has not yet been determined. The woman's name is being withheld pending notification of family. Fuck, I said. Look at that. Whoa, God. You know any 37-year-old local women? I shook my head. Or I don't know, maybe. I never did an age survey at the Divide. I hope not, but this has to be related. Does it? Rance asked. I thought people got murdered in D.C. like every day. They do, but in southeast, northeast, areas where poor people and minorities live, the places that politicians can overlook. Not in the fucking National Mall. My head was throbbing. It's the Aura people. I keep rejecting them, so they're sending me a message. Let's get the tab, my friend suggested. We made it home without getting murdered. Survived another night. And we took a little field trip to do some research this morning. Try to fill you in on that later today, but I need a break, man. Posted by Mark Huntley at 4:16 p.m. Alright. So, next time, tomorrow is when we'll pick up with the next entry called Buffalo Scuffle. I want to thank you all, you vast legions of people, for tuning in tonight. If you liked what you heard, then you can buy me coffee. You can check out my books. There are links for all that wonderful stuff in my Instagram bio, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, in the description section of the YouTube video. You can also catch up on previous readings in this series on my YouTube channel. We've got all the rest of them on there. I think there were 17 readings. I believe this is reading number 18. Maybe we'll stick upstairs. I don't know. The fake fireplace up here is operational. The one downstairs seems to have been busted for some reason. But anyway, y'all take care of yourselves. Y'all take care now. And don't get sick. Don't do anything dangerous. Try to stay out of the grocery stores. And we'll see you later.